Hello, everybody. This is Andy Gibson with InfoTrust. We will be getting, give about 30 seconds, make sure everyone can join, and then we'll be getting started. So give us a couple more seconds, see if anyone else is going to hop on, and we'll be getting started here shortly. While we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple housekeeping items. So one is, yes, we are recording this webinar. Yes, we will send you out the recording and the deck afterwards. So that's a question we get every single time. We also will have some time at the very end for a Q&A. So there is a questions panel with GoToWebinar. Go ahead and add all of your questions there. I'll get to those at the end. And if you would like to chat further, my email address is on the last couple slides. So feel free to reach out separately after. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Andy Gibson. I'm the head of vertical over here at InfoTrust. We're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I work with a lot of the Google marketing platform. I work with some of the largest companies and brands in the world. And I also am an adjunct professor over at the University of Cincinnati's College of Business. So just a little about me. A little bit more about InfoTrust, our company. So we are an independent analytics consultancy and product development company. We're headquartered out of Cincinnati, Ohio, but we also have offices in Chicago, Barcelona, and Dubai. Some of our services are listed there: data compliance security, digital architecture and integration, implementation support, reporting and insights, strategy and data science. So a lot of stuff that we cover. And then also with our technology partnerships, we are Google Marketing Platform certified. So we do resell Google Analytics 360, Optimize 360, and some of those other products within that platform. Google Cloud certified, BlueConic certified, and SessionCam partners as well. So BlueConic, SessionCam, those are additional products that we work with. All right, so a little bit about our differentiation. Again, we build our own products. So we have a product called taginspector.com. Feel free to reach out and learn more about that. We work with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. We support a ton of websites every single year. We do have global support, so we are based in many different time zones across the world. We work with a lot of different tag management systems and technologies, so we are pretty agnostic there. We don't sell media, so ROI is our top priority for you. And then we're also trusted advisors. So we have very high success rates with our clients, and our clients love us. Okay, so for today, let's chat about single customer view. So what is it? Why is it so important? What can it help you achieve? What platforms are needed to actually achieve a single customer view? And then how can you go about getting started? So in the last couple of years, you've probably heard this term before: single customer view, unified customer view. I really want to dive into what that means specifically, why it's important, and then also how you can get there. So I'll go over some use cases specific to some of the clients we currently work with, and hopefully that'll get the juices flowing for you to think through, what are the potential use cases your company could utilize something like a single customer view for. So when we're talking about what a single customer view is, let us first start talking about the main challenges when you don't have a single customer view. So one major thing right now is there are so many different consumer touch points, consumer journeys that our customers are interacting with on a daily basis. It's very, very difficult to understand everything that's going on, to understand every single touch point your business has with your customers. The main challenge right now for large organizations is just not having that full understanding of your customers' online and offline interactions with your customers, or with your company. So think about the social media team that you work with. Think about the e-commerce website. Think about your call centers, your customer service centers, your in-store. Think about all these different touch points: email marketing, advertising. How often are you able to connect those dots, connect those points to say, on this particular day, we interacted with this single customer 10 different times. Here's the platforms we interacted with them, and here's ultimately what they ended up doing. I'd venture to guess a lot of you don't have that set up right now, and that's not that uncommon, to be honest. So we're going to talk through this, but a couple of these causes for this lack of understanding is an inability to actually calculate a true customer lifetime value. So customer lifetime value is one of those other buzzwords that's increasingly being talked about in the industry, just understanding how much your customers are actually worth to your business. A poor online and offline experience. So this past spring, I was teaching a course at University of Cincinnati, as I mentioned, and we actually had a student that mentioned she had purchased a product, and I can't remember what that product is off the top of my head, but she purchased a product online on the website or on the company's website. And then within a matter of weeks, she was getting emails from that company to actually purchase that product again. Now, this product was a large item, so it was very expensive, and it's not one of those products that you purchase very often, like a TV or something like that. And so to her, she was very taken aback. Why are you sending me emails to purchase this product? I've already purchased it. I'm not going to be purchasing another TV anytime soon. And she was very confused on just why is this happening. So she was asking for my insight in there, and of course, with me, I don't really have an explanation for that company. It's probably a huge miss on their part. But we did go through kind of why this is potentially happening, and really it's because they're not understanding, everything that's happening. They don't have their systems tied together to understand that someone purchased on their website. Now remove them from their marketing campaign or email campaign that is directing people towards purchasing a specific product. That integration is a big piece. We'll be talking about that today, but that's one of the major reasons that companies are actually losing customers now, is because of these poor online and offline experiences. Another cause is a lower return on advertising spend. So if you think about how many times you see ads for products that you have already purchased, products you're not interested in, companies are spending millions and millions of dollars to market to people that are just not interested in their products or have already purchased that product and are not interested in purchasing it again. One of the major issues with this is that companies are not able to track down to the user level behavior, purchase history, and all these types of data points that would allow them to remove certain people from their audiences that are being marketed to. With that, because companies are spending these millions of dollars and have no way to really create these true granular segments, they are paying a lot of money to market to people that are just not interested in their products, that specific product, or purchasing from that specific company. So this causes companies to have a very, very low return on their advertising spend because they are marketing to a lot of people that should not be marketed to. And then another one is just a lack of understanding around what actually causes customers to convert or purchase. So if you think about just how many different touch points your organization has with customers and how often those customers interact with those touch points, are you able to say without a shadow of a doubt that customers are purchasing because of X, Y, or Z? My guess is still that's a very major blocker that you guys have in measuring, is you just don't have the capabilities to tie all these actions together to say definitively, X, Y, or Z was the reason that this purchase actually occurred. So these are some of the challenges that companies are having right now with just understanding customers' online and offline interactions. Let's go through a couple of these here for why this happens. So one is your company is just having this reliance on OPD, what I call OPD, or other people's data, that causes you to own very little of your actual customer data. So think about all of these different advertising networks, platforms that you're using: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Display Network, all of these networks that give you data that say, if you want to target ads, we have information on demographics, psychographics, all this stuff. Your customers are actually on those platforms, and what those platforms are doing is giving you that proprietary data to spend more money with them. Now, they're not allowing you to take any of that data on your customers that are on their platform and then pull that data into your own customer database to say, this person's between the ages of 18 and 24, based out of the Ohio region, and so on. So your reliance on other people's data is causing companies to realize they have this lack of first-party customer data on their clients. When those third-party networks have issues, like we'll talk about here in a little bit, with ITP 2.1, 2.2, Safari's intelligent tracking prevention, some of these other browsers that are starting to block third-party cookies, you're realizing that customers or companies now are not able to target the customer base that they would like to, because all of these proprietary third-party platforms are starting to be blocked in the amount of data they're actually able to collect. So companies are starting to realize, we've been relying on Facebook's audiences or LinkedIn's audiences to do a lot of our targeting. When that capability is removed, what are you left with? You're left with only your e-commerce database maybe that has specific purchase information, but doesn't have anything related to their site navigation or their customer service experience or call center experience. And so this huge reliance on other people's data is causing companies to realize they really don't have their own customer data that they should. The other point of this is that first and third party data are living in siloed platforms and networks, and then those generally are managed by siloed teams and employees. So think about your different touch points with your customers and who owns those data points, those platforms. Typically, the social media team is going to own any of the social media interactions. That might fall under the marketing team, that might not. Email marketing is probably a separate team from your social media team. The e-commerce platform and your website is probably owned by IT. All of these different platforms and networks have their own data. That data stays in those platforms and networks and generally is going to be managed by someone else at your organization. This causes a lot of confusion. This causes this data to be stuck in these different systems, and then that data is then not passed back and forth between these systems to build out these customer profiles that are really necessary in today's business. User level data is not accessible by marketing advertising platforms to actually activate it and do something with. This is another issue that we see. Because your systems are not integrated, you're not able to then take advantage of, let's say, the e-commerce information that you have on your customers within your email marketing system, for instance. So your email marketing system might only have access to information related to your actual emails that are being sent out. So who's getting sent what campaigns, their statistics within those campaigns, so emails they're opening, links they're clicking on, and that sort of thing. But it's not tied to the customer lifetime value, how many transactions have occurred, and that sort of thing. So this user level data is not accessible by these additional platforms, and that causes you to not have that one-to-one relationship with your customer that really customers are demanding these days. The fourth one, and another big one, is offline and online customer data just not being tied together. So think about, for your organization, if you have things like call centers, customer service numbers that people can call, how often does that information get pushed back into something like your customer relationship management tool, your email marketing system, your analytics tool? Are you able to tie any of that information together? Most of the time it's no, and if that's your answer, you're not alone. But this is one thing that's becoming increasingly concerning to customers, is they're interacting with a retail store, they are interacting with a customer service center, and then the other side, the digital side of the business, just doesn't understand that those interactions have occurred. That's very off-putting for a customer, and that's happened to me many times with actually a local HVAC company that I use. Their email system is not really tied to their call center, and so I'm getting bombarded by kind of both of them without either one of them understanding what's been occurring in my situation. So very frustrating. Definitely one of the more frustrating things that I've been through. So let's talk about the solution to getting over some of these challenges. This is that single customer view that we're talking about. So when it comes to what a single customer or a unified customer view is going to allow you to do, there's a couple things. One is understand your customers at an individual level across both online and offline touch points. So that's crucial. Another is managing all of your customer data within a single tool or database. Tailor marketing and advertising messaging to the right person at the right time to deliver that best-in-class experience and improve the effectiveness of kind of those communications. And then also build dynamic, personalized online and offline experiences. So there's a lot of additional things here. Really, you could put in a lot of different buzzwords, a lot of different activities, but these are the main crux of what a single customer view is going to allow you to do. On the example on the right, this is at a very high level what a single customer view data process would look like. So you have all of these different systems that are connected into the center of that graphic, the customer database. The customer database is going to house these user profiles that basically are built out as you interact with that specific customer. So as you know, as Bob gets an email from you, that gets added onto his customer profile. He makes a purchase, that purchase gets added onto his customer profile. He gets remarketed to that audience. All that information gets pushed back into his customer profile in real time, so that you're continuing to build out this profile on Bob to know that not only has Bob purchased 5 times in the last year, but he prefers men's clothing. He is a big tie fan, and so on. All of these things can be collected if you can connect all these different systems together. So on the left-hand side, we have all the different data that can be collected, and this is just some examples. So you have personal and demographic, online behavioral data from your app, your website, transactional data, third-party data, offline data. All these different pieces of data can be tied, that can be tied to a customer, should be tied to your customers in this database. Once you have all these customer profiles built out, then you can actually take action on that. So now that we know that Bob enjoys men's clothing and ties, you know, if we have a tie sale coming up, we will send Bob an email saying, hey, Bob, you know, we know that you've purchased a number of ties from us in the past. We're having a tie sale, 25% off all ties in the store, something like that. Right now, I'm guessing a lot of you don't have that fully built out, and that's okay, because you are definitely not alone. That is certainly something that a lot of large organizations struggle with right now. And then on the very right-hand side, you see that's just activating those data. So what we just talked about, that email marketing, being able to create a segment of tie buyers, add all of your customers that have purchased a tie in the last, let's say, year to an email list to send out that offer. That's an example of how you would go about activating that through another channel. Another example would be things like advertising. So we talked about just the sheer amount of waste, advertising waste that companies are paying for right now. If you have a sale on women's clothing, you probably don't want to show ads to Bob because Bob's never purchased women's clothing from your store before. So in that case, you could actually remove Bob from that segment to ensure that you're not spending money on impressions or anything along those lines that Bob's just not going to actually purchase with you. So at a very high level, this is what that single customer view looks like. Now let's chat through why having this single customer view is so important. We've kind of talked about that already, but I wanted to outline this a little bit more. So your customers are interacting with many different digital channels every day, like we've been talking about, and that includes your channel. So, you know, how many times are people pulling up their phone a day to look at Facebook, Instagram, check the news, open up any of these other apps? It's a number of times a day. It's becoming a requirement from your customers that companies are maintaining a consistent relationship with them across every single channel. So sort of like I was talking about with the local HVAC company and just not having their email system tied with their call center, it's my expectation that they should know that if I've talked with them on the phone, their email marketing system should not be sending me emails talking about things that are not relevant to any conversation I've had with them with their customer service team. They should not be sending me offers when I just had a HVAC replacement. So there's a number of things that become increasingly frustrating for customers, and we want you to avoid this. So really maintaining that consistent relationship across all these channels is crucial. So let's look at some of these stats. These are pretty crazy stats when I was looking through this. So the first one, 72% of adults prefer communication with companies digitally. That is very relevant to me. I would rather get emails from a company than them send me direct mail, and then reach out to me on the phone. Just send me an email. If I'm interested, I'll review it. That's it. I really don't want to deal with your salespeople or anything like that. No offense, but I do a lot of things digitally. That's how I prefer my communication with companies. 60% of millennials expect consistent brand experiences, whether in store, online, or by phone. So what we just talked about. 49% of consumers buy from their favorite omni-channel brands at least once per week. So that's pretty interesting there. 62% of consumers who engage their favorite brands on 10 plus channels make weekly purchases. So 10 plus channels, that's a lot of channels to be interacting with. 48% of shoppers will share data for more personalized service. I know that's especially true for me. If I'm going to get something tailored to my wants and needs, I will definitely allow you to track me for that information. I would much rather see relevant ads. I'm just thinking about Google specifically. I would much rather see relevant ads to my interests than see irrelevant ads that have nothing to do with me. I would venture to guess a lot of people are in the same boat. 47% of customers would switch to a competitor within a day of a poor customer experience. I'm guessing some of you have been in there. I know I have been in that certain situation when I've been on a website and I just cannot figure out where something is. I'm just not having a very good experience. I'll go right over to that direct competitor. At this point, I think I've seen stats in the past. I couldn't actually find one, but we're starting to become increasingly less tied to brands than we are with experiences. So no longer am I buying only Nike clothes because I like Nike. I'm buying who makes the best t-shirt, or I'm buying who has the best online experience for me personally. So no longer is your brand name going to be that sole reason why people are purchasing with you. So it's important to keep that in mind. And the last one here is 30% higher lifetime customer values are attributed to consumers shopping across multiple channels. That's another big one. So everyone is doing shopping in store while looking at Amazon. A lot of people are reading a lot of reviews online before they actually go and purchase in store or online. There's a number of different channels that people interact with before they make a purchase, before they convert. And so it's very important to understand that to be able to not only measure customer lifetime value, but then also increase that. If you have customer lifetime value, then you can start taking activities to drive that customer lifetime value higher. It's very important, but you need to understand that you need to be able to measure that across different channels. It's not just, how many purchases do they have on the website? Let's try to send them an email to make another purchase on the website. Like there's just a lot of different channels that interact right now. And so to have this single customer view, it's a necessity to connect everything together so that they're all talking with one another. So we've talked about this, but why is this so important? It's really because consumers are now expecting that personalized relationship with your company. So without this, your company runs the risk of losing these customers to your competitors that can provide that direct personalized relationship. And I think that's kind of implied with a lot of those statistics we just saw. It can also lead to improved metrics across the board. So a higher returning on advertising spend, which we've talked about, removing people that aren't going to purchase, a higher conversion rate, more recurring purchases, higher average order value. All of that leads to higher customer lifetime value, which in the end leads to more revenue for your company. It's very, very important to have this single customer view to drive all these metrics to get more money for your company. Let's go into now how this is possible, and I'll cover some specific examples to drive this home a little bit more. So let's talk about both of these benefits. We have a more complete view of your customer, which is what we've just been talking about, and then the ability to have an individual customer-based marketing and advertising strategy. These two are very, very important. So for a more complete view of your customer, we've been talking about this, but on the bottom right-hand corner here, I want to kind of drive this point home. Within your customer database, you are then building out these fields that show all of the different types of interactions your company is having with each customer. So in the example of Blake Smith here, we haven't interacted with them via email. We don't have their email at all, but we know based on their web browsing, they're from Ohio. Their engagement score is high, so they're regularly visiting our website and reading our content. Their favorite content categories are technology and business, and they do subscribe to some newsletter or something like that. Abby Williams, we do have her location, Cincinnati, Ohio. We have her email. She is interested in technology, real estate. She signed up for our real estate news. As we build out these profiles, we are then able to segment these audiences to deliver that one-on-one personalized experience that people are looking for. We've mentioned, and I've mentioned at the very beginning of this, how important it is to stop relying on other people's data. So collecting and owning that first-party data is becoming vital to each and every single business. That's really for a few reasons. One is for GDPR compliance. You want to make sure that the data that you do have on your customers is compliant. CCPA is coming out as well, so you want to be able to manage that data effectively. But then it also comes to some of the other issues within the industry right now, like Apple's ITP 2.1 and 2.2, which are limiting, or I should say severely limiting, the third-party cookies and trackers that are collecting some of this data that companies are using. A lot of ad networks use their own proprietary data. You're not able to get actual access to that or to your customer data from them. They house everything. There's a number of reasons why it's becoming important, but building out something like this will not only give you that complete view of your customers, but it'll allow you to own that first-party data so you're less reliant on OPD, other people's data. Another piece here is individual customer-based marketing and advertising strategy. So knowing more about your customers is going to allow you to tailor your marketing messaging to each individual user. We talked a little bit about these aggregate campaigns that you're advertising to people that aren't going to purchase, but that you know aren't going to purchase. You're just not taking that data out, or you just don't have a way to connect that data to your email marketing system, to your ad network, to be able to remove those people from your campaigns. One of these pieces is personalization. So being able to completely personalize the user experience based on this information that you're collecting in your profiles. So think content personalization. If you're a publisher, what content are people regularly reading? That's the content that you probably want to show higher on the page or on the home page or something like that to drive more engagement. Product recommendations, this is huge for e-commerce. So being able to upsell to higher ROI products or profit margin products, bucket frequently bought together products they may also like, etc. So being able to build out this personalization to deliver better recommendations for the customer is super important. The next piece is that advertising efficiency that we've talked about. So keeping these up-to-date user profiles is going to allow you to remove users from your advertising campaigns based on a lot of these criteria that we've talked about. So their transaction data, their browsing data, offline behavior, and so on. Audience monetization is another important thing, and this is very, very important with publishers. So the publishing industry has realized their reliance on data management platforms, DMPs, has caused them to basically put all of their customer data into a third party. If you think about companies that have a lot of anonymous users on their site, for them to sell advertising to people between the ages of certain age ranges, genders, they have to rely on these DMPs to build those aggregate anonymous audiences for them. And then they use that DMP to sell in that advertising to their customers, their advertisers. They're starting to realize that's not a great strategy because they don't own any customer data, right? All that anonymous data is coming from some proprietary algorithm that's collecting user behavior over the internet, and that DMP is putting them into target age ranges, genders, and that sort of thing. It's becoming increasingly important for these publishers to own that customer data themselves so they can sell in these personalized audiences to their advertisers. So instead of just having this very vague, people come to our site, we sell advertising based on that, they need to put together a strategy for how they're going to collect this information to build out these user profiles to then be able to monetize their audience with these very granular segments. Advanced data analysis is another big one. So having this more detailed, robust user profiles is going to allow you to do more advanced data analysis. So we talked about customer lifetime value. Now think about having a more accurate customer lifetime value. Maybe right now you only have a customer lifetime value based off of e-commerce purchases that happen on your website. What about if you're a retailer and you have physical stores? What about if your customer service reps can actually put in orders for customers? Is that information being submitted back to your analytics platform to calculate that? So being able to connect all these different systems together, you're able to then create a more accurate lifetime value calculation to take advantage of. Cluster and churn analysis, purchase probability, advanced attribution. As you're connecting all these different systems, you're getting more data points, which allows you to do these more advanced analysis, and then they become more accurate as time goes on. Testing optimization is another huge one. So leveraging this user analysis around the data points we just talked about, so churn probability, customer lifetime value, purchase probability, you can then tailor marketing messaging across those channels and user experiences to then drive those desired outcomes. So if you are looking to test customer lifetime value, and you maybe want to look at a ad campaign and how that drives customer lifetime value. So does it increase, does it decrease? You know, if that advertising campaign is successful. Or maybe you want to do some website testing. So putting some of your higher margin products higher on the page, or displaying those more prominently. How will those affect customer lifetime value as you're measuring that? So there's a lot of different opportunities to use this testing optimization built on top of some of that advanced data analysis to then deliver these targeted, more personalized experiences and test the outcome to see if that is actually driving the needle for your business. All right, so we've talked about some of these very high level examples, but I want to go through a couple specific ones just to really drive this home on why single customer views are important and how they can actually be used to drive success for your business. This is one that we've talked about already. So user-based marketing, it's really, really important to understand down to each and every user, their information, their browsing habits, and how you are interacting with them on a daily basis. So knowing all this about your customers, you're then able to deliver personalized marketing based off of all of those data points that you're collecting. In the case where the HVAC company is reaching out to me to send me a discount for a new HVAC system. Well, 2 weeks ago, I purchased an HVAC system. That would have been great to have beforehand. It's not great to have after I've already paid, $5,000 or whatever it costs. Having this information, having these different touch points connected allows you to then update these customer profiles so that you can then continue to build that marketing campaign, that marketing relationship with your client as personalized as it really can get. With personalization and recommendations, let's talk about a few here. So we talked about content personalization, we talked about product recommendations. In this case, we're looking at a publishing website. If you have certain users that visit certain content categories, read certain authors, and you're selling and advertising based off of this kind of viewing history, it's rather important to deliver a personalized experience to get these people to continue browsing your website, seeing your ads, and hopefully clicking on some of them. In this case, if certain people read the business section regularly, you can then really update your website, add them, or get their email so you can send them business-related newsletters and stuff like that, so that you're continuing to increase that engagement that they're having with you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So this is just a very high-level example of a content personalization piece, being able to change that website to deliver personalized content needs to each and every person that you have data on. Advertising efficiency, I know I'm hounding on this one, but this is like one of the easiest wins you can have if you want to improve the return on advertising spend, is looking at who in your campaigns are just never going to purchase. How do we know that they're not going to purchase? Well, we can do some advanced data analysis to figure out, people with certain characteristics are just not likely to purchase. We can look at the purchase history and see what types of products they're purchasing to see if those we should probably remove from certain audiences or from certain targeting. There's a number of ways you can do that, but it's very, very important to go through that process to remove people from your advertising. The business or the industry is still doing a lot of this very aggregate campaign type activities. You know, show me everybody between 18 and 32 that might be interested in, I don't know, might be interested in cars. You know, if you don't have this data, it's not great to be relying on third-party networks to tell you that information. How do you know that what they're providing you is actually accurate? You really don't. So you're kind of at their mercy to deliver you audiences to advertise to. You don't get any of that data back other than, you know, how well your campaign's performing. You need to own that data. You need to collect that data on your users to be able to remove them from your advertising so that you can increase your return on advertising spend. We've worked with a couple beauty companies to do this type of analysis for, where we're actually calculating purchase probabilities, and then we're removing the top or we're removing the bottom 10 to 20% that have a very, very low purchase probability. We're just removing them from those campaigns overall, and we've seen very, very high increases in return on advertising spend. Audience monetization, so we talked about this specifically already, but being able to build out these audiences with your own first-party data to show that over to or to sell that over to advertisers to advertise to. So depending on the information you're able to collect, if you can collect things like gender, age, all these data points you can then use to create that on your end. You no longer have to be at the mercy of something like a DMP to display all that information for you and sell in and really manage that on their end. You now own that data. You have that relationship with your customer. Not only can you sell in these audiences to your advertisers, but now if you have relevant content, if you have relevant offers, all of these can then be leveraged to build a better relationship with that customer. You're removing that third-party network that has this kind of proprietary, very black box type data model. You're removing them from the equation, and you manage that relationship with your advertisers. You manage that relationship with your customers directly. CLV, so customer lifetime value, we've talked about, but by calculating the CLV, we actually have done this with a couple beauty brands as well, kind of related to what I was just talking about, but building audiences based on these customer lifetime values and then activating those audiences through other platforms. So in the example of the Google Marketing Platform, which we specialize in, Optimize 360 is a testing and optimization tool. So being able to make updates to a website, to personalize a website based off of lifetime value to see if we're able to drive an increase in that lifetime value so that we know, personalization is causing a jump in CLV. We need to build this into our website so that it happens on a regular basis. Being able to remarket to people with high customer lifetime values to really drive repeat purchases, and then remove low lifetime value customers from our advertising campaigns, and so on. So a lot of things you can do with customer lifetime value, but again, for that customer lifetime value data to be accurate, you need to be able to collect, collect yes, but connect all of these different platforms together so that you have as accurate user profiles as possible. And the last one we've touched on a little bit, but really testing and optimizing to drive some type of user behavior. So in the example of this diagram kind of here at the bottom, maybe we want to test different versions of our offer landing page to see which one is driving the most subscriptions. From that learned activity, we can then modify our landing pages moving forward to hopefully have that higher conversion rate, or just to continue to test to really try to hone in on the combination that drives us the most conversion rate. So a lot of different examples here, but I'd be happy to chat with you guys. If you like to reach out, happy to chat with you to give you more examples of how we've gone about doing some of these things. So now everyone's saying, yeah, this is awesome. This sounds great. I'd love to do it. Like, what button do I press to get this done? Unfortunately, as you expect, it's not that easy, but I do want to talk about really how you go about doing this. So you've probably heard over these last, I'd say about 2 years, this term customer data platform, or CDP. The customer data platform is becoming increasingly crucial to businesses and how they operate. I want to first define this concept of the customer data platform, or CDP, but then I also want to talk about the options for doing a CDP or creating a CDP for yourself within your organization. So first, let's talk about a customer data platform as it's defined by CDP Institute. So it is a customer data platform, which is packaged software that creates a persistent, unified customer database that is accessible to other systems. We've been alluding to this the entire presentation, right? We've been talking about this persistent unified customer database. We've talked about connecting that database with other systems to unify your data, to activate your data. So we've been talking about this process this entire presentation. We just didn't put this terminology, customer data platform, around it yet. The definition has 3 critical elements. So I will not disagree, but I will add a caveat into this first one, so packaged software. The CDP Institute considers a CDP to be a prepackaged solution, so a pre-built solution, a product basically that you go and purchase, and it does a lot of this for you. Now, that is certainly possible. There are some great CDPs out there. We are BlueConic partners, so we definitely recommend BlueConic, but I also do not believe that it needs to be pre-built to take advantage of a lot of the benefits of a customer data platform. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Creates a persistent unified customer database. Yep, we've been talking about that. Accessible to other systems. Yeah, we've been talking about that. So CDP, packaged software, creates a persistent unified customer database acceptable to other systems. Another way to put this from Gartner is an integrated customer database that's managed by marketers that unifies a company's customer data from online and offline channels to enable modeling and drive customer experience. So a little bit different, still drives home a lot of the benefits of a customer data platform. So let's talk about these 2 options when it comes to a customer data platform at your organization. One is to go that CDP Institute route, that pre-built true customer data platform, and purchase a product like BlueConic, like Telium's Audience Stream, like Lytics, a lot of these CDP companies. They have these pre-built solutions. They are very plug and play. You connect all of your different ad networks, your different marketing systems to them, and that data is ingested and sent over. You are able to then start housing all of this information and taking advantage of it. This is a great option for companies that might not have the internal capabilities to build something themselves. We'll go through, I think it's in 2 slides, how you pick between option 1 and option 2. Let's chat about option 2 real quick, and then we'll talk about that. Option 2 would then be to build your own using something like Google Platform, or Google Cloud Platform, Amazon. All of these options, or all of these platforms, these cloud platforms, allow you to actually own most of this process, most of this platform yourself. There are a lot of reasons why you might want to go this route. There are definitely some positives and negatives to both of these options, which we'll cover here in a second. But this is where I disagree a little bit with the CDP Institute, in that you can build your own customer data platform. It might not be a true, quote unquote, true customer data platform because it's not pre-built, but sometimes for organizations, it's better for them to build and own that themselves than to use someone else's proprietary solution. So 2 main options. One is you are purchasing a pre-built solution like a BlueConic. The other is you're building your own CDP using a cloud platform like Google Cloud Platform. There is a 3rd option. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's a hybrid where you would basically do both of them. You'd own some of that platform yourself. You'd own, and then you'd also purchase a CDP to handle some of that as well. So if you're interested in chatting about which one makes more sense for your company, definitely reach out. But hopefully this next slide is going to be pretty beneficial. All right, so which option is best for you? It's really not an easy question to answer, unfortunately. There are many factors that are going to go into that decision. So one is, what resources do you have within your organization? So one is obviously very important, is management. Are you able to get management support, organizational support to actually build something out yourself, or do you need to rely on a third-party vendor or company to actually handle that for you? Of course, budget, employees and their capacity, time, knowledge, all of these different variables go into whether or not it makes sense for you to choose a pre-built solution or to build it yourself. The second piece of that is, what requirements do you have? So with companies that are highly regulated, think companies in the financial industry, generally it makes sense for them to own the entire solution end to end. If they know they have to be compliant with a lot of these different rules and regulations, they want to make sure that they're managing all of that themselves. They're not in for a scare when they realize that this integration that was built by some other company isn't acceptable for those rules and regulations or something like that. So in those cases, it might be better for a company to actually build that in-house than to rely on somebody else's technology. If it needs to be easy to manage, then it probably is going to be easier to pre-build that. You don't have to rely on your IT team to do a lot of that technical work and for them to do upkeep and maintenance and all of that stuff. The pre-built solution might be the best option there. Quick ROI, so if you want to get up and running very quickly, usually a pre-built solution is going to be what you're wanting to look for. If your management team says, yeah, this all sounds great, we want to see results in 2 months, well, that doesn't give you much time to build anything out. So in that case, you might need to go the pre-built solution route. Integrations with your internal company platforms. So if you have a lot of other proprietary solutions, it probably makes sense to go down that build your own route rather than a pre-built solution, which you're going to have to highly customize anyway to interact with those internal company platforms. So we talked a little bit about generalizations, but I want to go through this a little bit more. For the pre-built CDP route, like with the Blue Conic, it might make sense to choose these if you need to get up and running quickly. So 1 to 3 months generally is kind of the ballpark. Marketing needs to own it, not IT. So if you want your marketers to be very self-sufficient with being able to do a lot of these things, you're probably going to need to choose one of these pre-built solutions where you don't need to reach out to IT to do a lot of these things. You might also go the pre-built route if you do not have the necessary resources, so employees, time, knowledge to actually build and maintain that yourself. If you don't have anyone in your organization that understands Google Cloud Platform or Amazon or any of these data warehousing needs, it probably doesn't make sense to choose the pre-built or to choose the build yourself route, because you're probably going to have to hire somebody else or a vendor to build that for you. So these are all things that you need to think about when you're looking to make this decision. You might also choose then the build it yourself model if one, you want or need to own it all internally, and mainly IT is the one that needs to own that. You don't trust other companies with your first party data. You don't have the necessary resources, employees, time, knowledge to build and maintain it yourself. There's a lot of different examples here, but these are a couple generalizations for each one of these options and what might be best for your organization to get started. And then, so let's talk about a little bit about how to get started. So this is a very difficult, this was a very difficult slide to put together because it's so different for every single organization. But I tried to take a very high level approach and put together some tasks that I think would get you started on this route. One is to take inventory of all your first party customer data, where that resides and who owns it. This is very, very important to understand. Is this data, do I have access to this data right now as a marketer, as an advertiser, as an analytics team? This will definitely tell you if there are any potential possibilities for this data integration across your organization. If you don't know what data your customer service team has on users, you're not going to be able to leverage that data to do anything else with email marketing, with website personalization, and so on. So it's very important to take inventory of that first. The next piece is building the use cases or user stories for what a single customer view is going to allow your organization to do that it currently can't. So when it comes to selling this internally, you have these built out to say, you know what, it'd be super, super important for us to be able to remove certain people based on their buying behavior from our audience targeting to increase the return on advertising spend. It'd be extremely important to better personalize our website based off of browsing activity, purchase behavior, offline purchases, and more. Building those out allows you to see, you know, where are really the top priorities and how can we really start driving the needle to show management, you know, these are what we think we can really tackle within the next 1, 3, 5, 10 months. It's also important to then work with your internal team. So this is generally going to be IT, marketing, analytics, potentially legal, to determine which method for creating that customer data platform is going to work best for you. So we went over those two main options. So a pre-built CDP like BlueConic or a build your own CDP on some type of cloud platform. So it really makes sense to have these internal conversations to figure out, you know, does it make sense to go through this route of building it ourselves, or should we just go ahead and start looking at all the different companies that make customer data platforms themselves? The fourth one here is put together a proposal for management to get funding. So this is often overlooked. When people go to management, they say, hey, we have this shiny new object. Here's what it costs. Can we purchase it? From management's perspective, they're looking to evaluate the budget. So of course they want to know how much it's going to cost, but they need to weigh that with the potential ROI for other activities and other platforms that people are approaching them with. So being able to put together a proposal to show them here's what we expect within the first month, 3 months, 6 months, and what we expect to pull back on return on advertising spend, ROI in general. These are very powerful ways to get your management's buy-in. And then the last one, which is super easy, execute. So this is actually then laying out that plan for how are we going to get from point A to point Z with our new customer data platform. If it's a pre-built solution, do we need to get a vendor like InfoTrust to come in and help us support this? If we're building it ourselves, do we have all our teams in order? Do we know you know, specifically who's owning what? Do we know timelines and milestones and all that stuff? That's the fun part. Now you're going to go ahead and start taking, start doing those things. So hopefully this is a little bit helpful in terms of how to get started. Again, it's very difficult for, you know, billion-dollar industries and companies to be able to say, like, here's the 5 steps for what you should be doing. But hopefully this was helpful, at least a little bit, to get you guys started. Let's see, next steps. If you want to learn more about CDPs and how they can benefit your organization, definitely reach out to me. My email's right there, and it'll be on the next slide as well. If you're looking for me, I know I mentioned BlueConic a few times, so if you're looking for more information on BlueConic, it's blueconic.com. And if you want to chat more about BlueConic, let me know. I can pull some people in from their end as well. And let's see if we have any questions. So we have a couple minutes here. I want to review the questions and I'll answer those. So let me know what other questions you have. All right, so we got a few so far. Let's see, can you explain how the CCPA will and third-party tags affect are relevant to single customer view? Let me read this again. Can you explain how the CCPA and third-party tags affect are relevant to a single? Yeah, so this is a really good question. So we've talked about a little bit at the very beginning, GDPR, CCPA, third-party tags. We mentioned a little bit about Apple's Safari Intelligent Tracking Prevention, or ITP. It's becoming increasingly important for companies to own their own customer data and not be as reliant on third-party networks and platforms. So when it comes to some of the new laws and legalities out there, like CCPA, like GDPR, your customer data that you own, you need to ensure you are abiding by all these different laws in these different countries, regions, whatever. So as you're starting to collect this, it's important to think through where this data is going. If you're getting, if you are allowing, or people are allowing you to track their information with CDPs, because you are kind of controlling that flow of data, it makes it very easy for you to manage that data across your organization. So in this case, for a platform like BlueConic, a CDP like BlueConic, it inherently is built in that you can do privacy and that sort of management with that data. When it comes to, let me get back to this question. When it comes to third-party tags, companies have been very reliant on third-party networks and their tags to collect customer data for them. It is super important now that companies start to collect this first-party data so that they become less reliant on these third-party networks and platforms that are starting to be blocked by web browsers, like through Apple's ITP 2.0, like through Firefox's new, and I can't remember what it's called, but they're starting to do very similar things. It's going to become increasingly difficult to track people across different websites with these third-party tags and third-party cookies. So there is a renewed emphasis on owning your own data so that you're not as reliant on these third-party networks that are starting to have trouble with tracking on the internet. So great question. Thanks for that one. Another question, is BlueConic the only CDP you recommend? No, not necessarily. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to get up and running very quickly with a CDP, and to be able to show a lot of those use cases right away, BlueConic is extremely, extremely beneficial for that. It's very easy to get up and running with BlueConic very quickly, and so if you're worried about management and they really need to see results rather quickly, something like BlueConic, that's a great way to get that up and started. They're very agnostic. It doesn't matter what tag management system you're using or analytics tool you're using or database you're using. They plug and play with a lot of those different platforms. So that's a great way to get started. There are some other good ones out there, Lytics, Telium. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. So I need to know a little bit more about your particular use case before I could recommend one over the other. And then Jim just saying thanks for all the information. Appreciate it, Jim. Always good to see you. Cool. So I don't think I see any other questions. I'll stay on for a couple minutes here to see if we get any more submitted. But if not, I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today. Hopefully this was insightful. If you are interested in learning more, definitely reach out. But again, we'll be sending out the recording and the deck in a day or two. So appreciate it, everyone. Definitely looking forward to chatting soon. Thanks a lot.